world was lifted from Bonzi Wells' shoulders on Saturday, becoming the all-time Mid-American Conference scoring leader with a thunderous dunk against Northern Illinois. Bonzi puts the record behind him and now focuses on the task at hand, leading his team to a Mid-American Conference championship. Next step along the way, Central Michigan University. It's live next.
This Mid-American Conference basketball game of the week on Fox Sports Ohio is sponsored by the Hoosier Lottery. The Hoosier Lottery, proud sponsors of Cardinal basketball.
From Mount Pleasant, Michigan, it's Mid-American Conference basketball between the Chippewas of Central Michigan and the league-leading Ball State Cardinals. Welcome to Rose Arena along with Jerry Pearson. I'm Vince Welch. It's championship time in the Mid-American Conference. The Ball State Cardinals are trying to strengthen its grip on first place in the league and secure its first regular season championship since 1993. But the Ball State Cardinals close out the regular season on Wednesday against second place Western Michigan, and that makes this game here on the road all the more important.
It's very important that the Ball State Cardinals do not look ahead against Western on Wednesday night, and they focus in on a team that Coach Smith told me before the game is playing extremely hard. They're the type of team they have not given up, even though it looks like they've gotten blown out a few games. But they want to get a little revenge, Vince, from what happened back in Muncie just about a month ago. So they're ready for tonight's game.
Central Michigan will not be making an appearance in the postseason conference tournament. The Ball State Cardinals will be making a postseason appearance. And as we take a look at the Mid-American Conference,
he's the kind of guy I think tonight, Vince, is going to have to play a strong power game. They're going to have to throw the ball inside to him. He's got to get it done inside, and I think he can cause a lot of problems for the Chippewas.
For Central Michigan, one player making his last home court appearance, a senior, Jerry Glover.
Well, Jerry Glover is their leader, and, you know, you read about him and hear about him. He's not only a leader on the floor physically, but also mentally, and the type of things that he does for this basketball team gives him a lot of good things both on and off the court.
Central Michigan hosting Ball State. It's the Mid-American Conference Game of the Week from Rose Arena in Mount Pleasant, Michigan on Fox Sports Net. Schedule Wednesday against Western Michigan, and should be a good one here tonight. Central trying to send its seniors out in style, and Jerry Glover, one of those seniors that looks to have a big game tonight. You see the starting lineups: Bonzi Wells, Wayne Johnson, Ryan Reed, Dwayne Clemens, and Mickey Hosier for the Ball State Cardinals. Jerry Glover at one forward slot, Dan Schell at the other forward, Lee Hampton, 6'4", 210-pound senior in the middle, with Ryan Jansen at one guard, and the other guard is the team's leading scorer, Tim Kisner. And one thing you will notice about the Chippewas once we get things going today, a much smaller team against Ray McCallum's Cardinals. Ball State will have a size advantage, and look for McCallum's team to try to exploit that advantage inside this evening.
Not only will they have a height advantage, but they also will have a depth advantage, Vince, in that Coach Smith was saying that they had very little bench opportunities. You know, they have to sub once in a while, but there just isn't any players who have a whole lot of experience he can go to.
You see Jay Smith's record at Central Michigan. This is his first year, and there are 6 true freshmen on the roster, and he says this is the season they're laying the new foundation. They've got a lot of work to do here at Central, but he believes they're going to be a much better team next year, and he's been around big programs before. He was an assistant at Michigan for 7 seasons.
He's a very positive young man. You know, he's going to end up doing a very, very good job here at Mount Pleasant, and he'll get the kind of players that he needs to adapt to his offense, which is a motion kind of offense. He likes to play pressure defense, wants to press a little bit more, a lot like what Ball State plays. But so far this year, he hasn't been able to do that, and you've got to control things more at the half court.
These two teams met previously on December 29th back at University Arena in Muncie. It was a game in which Ball State dominated. Central Michigan only had one player in double figures, and that was Aaron Brown, a 6'8" junior out of Knightstown, Indiana, the team's best three-point shooter, but he will not play tonight because of a back injury.
It's kind of disappointing for you and me. We like to always see those Indiana players when we go on the road, but he is a good shooter. He's their leading three-point shooter, and a guy that, you know, Ball State's certainly not going to miss having to play against, and that, again, hurts the depth situation. And we're going to have to watch the substitution patterns that Coach Smith uses tonight to see how much of a factor that will be as the game wears on.
There's a look at Bonzi Wells, the Ball State Cardinals All-America candidate. He is the conference's all-time leading scorer, and also this season broke the all-time steals record here in the Mid-American Conference. He is a finalist for the National Player of the Year award handed out by the United States Basketball Writers Association, and he's also a finalist for the Wooden Award, certainly one of the best players to ever wear a uniform in the Mid-American Conference.
And we all know that he's a whole lot more relaxed tonight, Vince, since the record has been broken here in Mount Pleasant than he was Saturday in that particular game. He was uptight, did not shoot the ball extremely well, but he got it done, and more importantly, the Cardinals won a big home game. And so it sets the stage for a big game tonight. They got to stay focused against this Mount Pleasant team.
Had a little bit of a delay because it's senior night here at Rose Arena in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, as the three seniors are being recognized for their career efforts here at Central Michigan University. Jerry Glover, Ryan Jansen, and Lee Hampton, the three seniors, and they were introduced along with their parents before the game and given a very nice round of applause for all their efforts. And certainly all the players on this Central Michigan team would like nothing better than to send the seniors out with an upset win over Ray McCallum's Ball State Cardinals.
Well, that's always the goal whenever you play that final game, and we'll see how it unfolds. They did not handle Ball State's press in the previous game and turned it over 26 times. They averaged 22 turnovers, so that's going to be a part of the game that Ball State wants to exploit and hopefully get it started the same way.
The 60th meeting between the two. Ball State has won 22 of the last 23 meetings. And the Cardinals control the tap, and Ball State will have the first offensive possession of the game.
Kind of look for Central to play more of a keyhole type of defense and slough out inside. Wasn't real effective there, but they've got to keep the ball out of the paint area against Central.
Ball State with patented full court pressure. Cardinals will press the length of the floor much of the game, forcing opponents into 22 turnovers per contest.
That's just an incredible statistic, and that's what made them one of the top defensive teams here in the conference. They get after it real hard, especially at the full court.
Shot clock inside of 10. Down to 5, and Kisner shoots a 3. Wells pulls down his first rebound. Bonzi Wells had a double-double Saturday against Northern Illinois. 24 points and 10 rebounds.
Central's certainly not giving Ball State a whole lot of credit with their outside shooting. They're playing real close to the vest, down inside that maroon area, and giving up the outside shot.
Glover has it knocked away as he went to the basket. The foul on Mickey Hosier, and Jerry Glover will step to the free throw line to shoot 2. There's a look at Mickey Hosier, the sophomore from Alexandria, Indiana, who missed 6 games earlier this season with a broken right hand, but is back in the starting lineup and called for his first foul.
He had just an outstanding game on Saturday. It was good to see him play without that cast on his hand, and a lot more comfortable. Played with a lot of zip in his legs, and an outstanding defensive player, as he showed there, but he's got a little bit too much arm rather than ball.
Glover ties the game. We've played a minute and a half. Ball State and Central Michigan in the Mid-American Conference. Wells misses the 3, and it's another rebound for Lee Hampton. And Hampton will go ahead and dribble it up the court himself, showing his versatility.
Going to see an outstanding motion offense, what Coach Smith loves to do. Good screening away from the ball, good cutting action, looking for each other.
Shell with the air ball, and Ryan Reed pulls down the rebound, and Ball State turns it over.
Well, I think that Dwayne thought that the pass was a lot harder, Vince, than it was, but it kind of bounced. He let it bounce and lost the handle. Went to make a move before he caught the basketball.
Michigan breaking the press with the dribble. 3 on the way. It's off the mark, and Ryan Reed will pull down a second rebound.
Both teams are wanting to run the ball very quickly up and down the court, so Central not showing any tendency to slow the tempo down.
Wayne Johnson has it knocked away. Central's on the floor for it. Good hustle from the Chippewa.
Excellent hustle, and Coach Smith said that this basketball team, even though they have the record they have not quit, and they've given him every ounce of effort that they possibly can throughout the season.
Central Michigan has lost 5 in a row, just 2 and 14 in league play. That's the kind of team that, if you're Ray McCallum and it scares you to death because you know that team is going to be due.
Well, they are, especially at home. They play a whole lot differently here. Their road record's not been very good. So they're going to have to keep attacking and hit those open shots that they get.
Clemens to Hosier. Mickey Hosier's first basket.
Now ball stays slow in transition.
Jerry Glover with a little senior night special.
Yeah, he got up high on that one, but Ball State very sluggish, getting back, didn't attack the press very well, and let Glover get behind the alley-oop pass. Great springs in his legs. This Central's just content with giving Hosier and all the perimeter players that shot. That's what Mickey's got to do, Vince. They've got to knock those down because they're wide open. They're going to give him the outside jumper and make somebody else prove rather than Bonzi. Mickey Hosier, not a scorer here at the collegiate level, but was an outstanding scorer as a high school Indiana All-Star back in Alexandria. So he is capable of knocking down the jump shot, but it hasn't been his role with the Cardinals this year as Shell works his way free for his first basket, tied at 6. Well, again, wide open jump shot. Central's going to give it up, and they got to knock it down to be able to maintain a lead here. So the wide open shot that Ball State's going to have about every opportunity. It looks like the way they've set their defense. Shell mishandles it. Clemens to the basket, draws the foul. Lee Hampton will be called for the personal. Clemens will go to the line to shoot 2. Clemens was going to get fouled no matter how he shot it. He elected to bring it back down and throw one up over his right shoulder, and at least he got it airborne and got the shot going to the basket so that the foul would create two free throw opportunities. The free throw has really been a problem for Ball State recently. The Cardinals have shot just 54% in the last 3 games. And you see Mitch Hankins come into the contest. Wayne Johnson leaving to get a breather. Marcus Mason has checked in for Ball State as well. We talked about it on Saturday, Vince, how important those things are, the free throws are, and when you don't hit them, it can be like kind of like a disease that spreads throughout the team. Timeout, 15 for the victory. And there's a look at Jay Smith. A year ago, he was the head coach at Saginaw, or at Grand Valley State. Took his team to a 23-6 finish in a conference championship, and got the opportunity to come here to the Division I level and coach at Central Michigan. You see how Central is really hustling. They've gotten 2 or 3 loose balls that Ball State's knocked away, but they've come up with it. Todd Simmons with the basketball, just checked in for Central, a 6'4" sophomore from Iron River, Michigan. The Central team, very young, 6 true freshmen on the roster, a redshirt freshman, a couple of sophomores. Going to be a much better club in the years to come. Shot clock down to 5. Kisner has it taken away by Charles Smith. Central wasn't going to get a good shot anyway. No, they weren't. It was good defensive hands by Smith. He got a little piece of the ball as he went up to shoot it, got the steal. Mason, he's been effective on the drive of late and gets his first 2. Vince, that's exactly right. You know, we know that Mason struggled from the field this year. His shooting percentage is not what it was last year, but he's done an excellent job on some of those power drives like that one he just shown there. Central Michigan has handled the press fairly successfully here in the early going of the first half, and that was a real problem for the Chippewas in the earlier meeting in Muncie. Well, they averaged 22 turnovers, as we talked about earlier, but they've shown a lot of patience so far. Good up and under from Shell, but he couldn't get it down, and Ball State now goes to the offensive end with Bonzi Wells on the shake and bake and drawing the foul. Yeah, he got that little delayed dribble, had his head fake, got a little delayed dribble and got it to the baseline. Had Kisner up in the air and was going in for a dunk when he got fouled. It was a good foul by Central Michigan. You saw Wells with that shake and bake just paralyzed the defender, but Central Michigan not going to let Bonzi or any Ball State player have an easy layup. No, they're not. They're gonna know where he is all the time, and they got it, like we talked, packed in there, and they're going to double team Bonzi anytime he gets the ball down inside. But if Ball State shows patience against their on the press and plays good sound defense, Central has not shown a tendency to shoot the ball very well from the field. And they're going to get their opportunities to get the break going. And just takes a lot of patience by a team that should win this basketball game.
Wells leads the game with 4 points. Lamont Rowland, sophomore from New Albany, Indiana, has checked in. And Rowland became eligible on December 29th, second semester eligibility against the Central Michigan team, and went out and had a very good debut. Glover was fouled inside, leaning in. Lamont Rowland, an interesting story. He scored in double figures in 8 of the 14 games he's played this season, but did not play on Saturday in the win over Northern Illinois because of a team-imposed suspension for not adhering to the team's academic rules, and did not get the start tonight.
Well, the disciplinary action by the coaches over an academic situation is what it's all about, and that's what young athletes are in school to do, is to get the grades and get their degree. And Lamont had to pay the penalty of a little complacency on his part. So you're right, Vince. He didn't get to start tonight, but he'll get himself back going again and hopefully learn something from that lesson of misfortune.
And before Rowland got into the starting lineup, he was a very effective player off the bench, and we would expect to see that effectiveness continue this evening.
I guarantee you one thing, Prince, they're going to know where Rowland is and put a lot of pressure on him, because he can shoot the ball from 3.
Leading to shoulder in, called for the charge. Rowland was an all-state performer in high school. Took his high school team, New Albany, to the state finals. And as Bonzi well said, one of the toughest players he's ever had to guard. He's just glad he has to guard him in practice and not in a game situation for another team.
Yeah, that's right. He is an excellent practice player. Can light it up. He gets hot, gets on his feet.
Central Michigan will have their eye on Rowland tonight.
They will. They will know where he's at all times.
Glover called for the walk, drug the step. The third turnover against the Chippewas.
Yeah, we'll see what kind of patience that Ball State has on this trip. The Central's content with laying back. And so got to set good screens, and when the shot's there, be squared up and take it.
Central in a man-to-man, giving Ball State the perimeter shot. Hankins fighting for the ball and getting the hoop.
Well, he was in a lot of traffic, but Mitch has done that frequently this year and shot it well in traffic and powered it in. He's got good shooting touch for a big man.
Hankins well over 50% shooting from the field. Clemens will get another steal and finish.
You don't want to throw any lazy passes against Dwayne Clemens, because when he gets his mind set to play defense, he has got as quick a hands as anyone.
Ball State on a 9-point run.
Yeah, he just really anticipates Vince and does an excellent job. And it's the kind of effort that picks your defense up, helps you get steals, get some easy baskets the other end, as Dwayne was able to do that last trip.
John Borovich has checked in for Central. Shot clock again inside of 10 seconds. Kisner leads in, misses the shot. Shell with the rebound.
Well, Ball State had a chance to take the charge. The offensive player left his feet. They didn't get it. Then the second shot effort rebound for Central. It proved off for a nice jump shot.
Charles Smith misses the drive, and it's another rebound for Dan Shell. Shell is going to be a good one in this league. 6'5" sophomore out of Mount Pleasant, playing for his hometown school. Backdoor alley-oop. Borovich on the receiving end.
Well, there's really no excuse. I don't know what happened, but Smith went to sleep, didn't know who he had, and a little backdoor play.
You don't see many 6'1" guards on the finishing end of an alley-oop.
No, you don't. It just was a good screen off the ball.
Mason again, but it's an offensive foul. He left his feet.
Anytime an offensive player leaves his feet, you can bet that someone's going to take the charge. Ball State missed it at their end. Central delivered at their end.
Timeout on the floor. Ball State leading Central Michigan on Fox Sports Ohio. Leading Central Michigan 15-11, and the Cardinals defense forcing another turnover, and then Charles Smith lost it out of bounds, but last touched by Central Michigan.
Just about the time Charles was ready to go up for a shot, he lost the handle, lost his balance, and the ball went off a Central player and out of bounds, and Hosier let it go. So Ball State gets possession here.
Smith misses. Mickey Hosier ties up, and the possession arrow points to Central Michigan. Hosier jumped right in there and tied up Luke Johnson.
So one of the things it's very noticeable, Vince, when Ball State's taking a shot, the other 4 players are standing around a little bit too much. They're not going to the offensive glass like they need to get some putbacks.
Brent Larson, a freshman from Wisconsin, in the game with the basketball right now for Central. And Clemens fouls him in the backcourt. Both these teams play a lot of players. Jay Smith plays a lot at Central Michigan because his team is so young, and although maybe he doesn't quite have the talent at the depth level that he'd like, he still gets quite a few kids in the game. Ball State has 10 different players averaging 15 minutes or more.
Well, both coaches, as you say, they're going to play a lot of players, and they're going to test each other out here early. And Coach Smith trying to set the tone for next year and keep his young players fired up to see who's going to be a force next year.
Central Michigan has run the shot clock down inside of 10 on almost every offensive possession. And with 5 seconds on the clock, there's a Ball State foul call.
Well, that's 2 or 3 times that Ball State has gotten that shot clock down, and Clemens, there you see, has 2 fouls. Both fouls, and come in the last 30 seconds of the game, and on lazy type of foul. Didn't move his feet, got himself in trouble, and reached.
Central Michigan working it around the perimeter with this smaller lineup. They keep the middle of the floor open and try to cut to the basket.
Exactly right, Vince. They really do. They keep it real wide and get cutting action to the basket.
Shot off the mark from Luke Johnson, freshman from Gaylord, Michigan. Charles Smith now bounces into the offensive court. There's Clemens, has to change the shot. Borovich rebounds, leads it down for the senior Lee Hampton. And Hampton gets his first basket of the night. So the senior, we know he's not going to go scoreless on senior night.
No, he's not.
Mickey Hosier with the drive to the hoop.
Mickey Hosier showing a little offensive execution there. He had to get that one down because he was kind of lazy on the defensive end the last trip down and let the defensive or offensive player get the better position and tried to go for a steal, missed it, allowed the jump shot to happen.
Hampton inside on Bonzi Wells, and Hampton took an extra step with it. The 6th turnover against Central Michigan. Substitutions for both teams. Jerome Davis and Lamont Rowland come in for Ball State. Jerry Glover has returned to the lineup for Central Michigan. Tim Kisner has also come back in, and Kisner has the basketball for Jay Smith's Chippewas.
This game so far, Vince, is unfolding exactly the way that Central Michigan would like that for it to happen. Not get down too many early and hang right in there.
You know, we're seeing Wayne Johnson and Jerome Davis both in the ball game at the same time for Ball State. That was Johnson missing the driving shot. We don't see that too often. Usually those two players are interchangeable. Last touch by Ball State. Central will have possession.
I still think Ball State's showing a tendency to stand around a lot on missed shots. And they're just expecting the shot to go down. The shooter is the only guy that needs to think the ball is going to fall every time he shoots it. The other 4 players got to anticipate a miss, and Ball State's not done that here in the first half.
Hosier got a hand on it. Another Ball State player knocked it away from Borovich. Ray McCallum over there pleading his case. Felt like maybe Hosier was slung to the ground right in front of the bench. Adding insult to injury is right in front of the bench, and the official still didn't call it.
That was in front of the bench, but the dribbler was the guy who kind of spun backwards, and his hand kind of knocked him down a little bit. It was kind of a weird play. Kind of surprised the official, I think.
Hosier called for the personal.
Well, Mickey's got to watch his temperament. Showing good effort. What happens is every time that you show a little bit of emotion, when a play goes against you, you can bet one thing: the official's going to remember who you are, what number you are, and you're not going to get any breaks. So Mickey's got to be very careful and just go out and play.
Here's John Borovich. This is the front end of the 1-and-1. Borovich called for the foul as Bonzi Wells picked up the loose ball. Borovich upset with himself that he missed that free throw. Central's going to take advantage of those opportunities in a game in which they're outmanned from a talent perspective as Mitch Hankins comes back in for the Cardinals. Wayne Johnson is out.
Really have to like the approach that they're taking defensively and playing what we like to call a keyhole type of defense and packing it down inside. We'd be surprised to see him play some zone as well, Vince, just to keep everybody outside for Ball State and find out where number 42 is all the time. It's only the fourth team foul for Central Michigan. Ball State has hacked away 7 times, so Central's in the bonus, and Ball State's got to show a little more patience to get themselves to the free throw line.
The second foul on Lee Hampton as Bonzi Wells misses, but there's Lamont Rowland.
There you see a little bit of what Lamont can do, what kind of talent that he has. And the reason that happened is because he went after the basketball and the missed shot.
Timeout on the floor, 7:55 to play in the first half. Ball State and Central Michigan in the Mid-American Conference Game of the Week.
A good move, but it was all because he had a great effort to go after the missed shot to allow himself to be able to make that move. So that's what has precipitated it. Was not the move itself, it's how it got there, and the fact that he got the ball back for Ball State.
Hampton misses the shot, and Rowland pulls down another rebound. See the turnovers so far. Central has given it away 7 times. Jerome Davis shuffled the feet. Turnover number 6 is right on cue.
Yeah, all Jerome had to do is catch the basketball and go right up and shoot it, because the defense was way back 6 or 8 feet away from him, and he tried to make himself a little closer and shuffled his feet. Just take the jump shot, and it's there. Central's allowing it to happen.
Todd Simmons back in the ball game for the Chippewas. Ball State in a pressure man-to-man defense. Glover, circus shot inside.
Now Bonzi got lost. Glover made a nice cut off the back pick. Bonzi got lost on the screen.
Wells, an air ball three-pointer. Bonzi, the team's leading three-point shooter, but he hasn't had the stroke the last couple of games, and he's going to go get a breather as Ryan Reed and Marcus Mason come back into the lineup. When you shoot an air ball in a visiting arena, you're always going to hear about it from here on to the rest of the game.
And I know Bonzi liked to have that pulled back. He dribbled the whole length of the floor, and he's better at catching the ball off the pass than he is taking it off the dribble and shooting it just coming down straight on the basket.
Borovich to the baseline.
Yeah, they're just hanging in there, playing their game. Ball State's letting it happen. They get a lead and get a little bit complacent on defense.
Rowland misses. Hankins fouled as he grabbed the offensive rebound. Simmons will be called for the personal. You know, I really like the way Central on the offensive end is spreading out the floor, but on the Ball State offensive end, the size is really coming back to haunt them.
Well, it is, and you know, you've got to get the ball down in there and get after it.
Glover just called for the reach in on Reed. Inadvertent, but a foul just the same.
You know, and Ball State's got their twin towers in there right now, so you got 3 perimeter players and Hankins and Reed, so they ought to be able to get something down there, that little high post action. But Ball State's got to show a little bit more patience in their offensive sets.
Reed can't catch it. Turnover, Ball State.
That was a tough pass. It was down low, and it's really hard for a big man to get down there to pick that up. He almost had to be a second baseman to get that pass. It skipped as soon as Mickey threw it. It wasn't a well-executed play.
Borovich called called for the walk. And again, the ball pressure for Mickey Hosier creating the turnover.
That's what it takes. You got to fight through the off-ball screens, and you got to keep the dribbler in front of you. And Mickey did an excellent job that and called it. And the ball handler had a tendency to lose his balance.
Lamont Rowland working the baseline, trying to come off the screen. Hosier shoots the three.
Yeah, I think I just let Hosier just take it. Just set screens all over the floor for Hosier right now. He's the one that's got the hot hand. Let him get 20 tonight.
Hosier averages 3.5. He already has 9.
He's the type of player, too, that once he gets his offense going, he just gets better and better.
Three-point play opportunity gone awry for Central.
Ryan Reed, Vince was just very slow, about a step and a half late getting to the lob pass. It was his coverage all the way. There you see it. There he comes into the action right there. Had his hand straight up and got a piece of the arm. He could have knocked that away had he been about a step and a half quicker.
Dan Shell knocking down the first of two. As you see, the substitution for Central Michigan, Ryan Jansen, the senior from Mount Pleasant, back in the game. Shell, an excellent baseball player, and the #1 pitcher on the Chippewas baseball squad. Two-sport star here in college.
I bet he can hum it. He can throw the fast one, I'll bet. In fact, he's going to leave right after the season and join the baseball team on the spring trip. I wonder if he's been getting any practice pitching here the last couple of weeks.
He's been keeping the arm loose. Bonzi Wells back in the lineup for Ball State. Hankins can shoot that shot. Was on target, but wouldn't go down. And there's the rebound from Shell. And Shell's now called for the traveling violation. He had it hooked on his hip, and Jay Smith thought maybe his player was bumped.
Well, Bonzi was getting after him pretty good, but I don't think there was any contact.
Jay Smith replaced Leonard Drake, who had previously been the head coach here at Central Michigan. Wells offensive rebound.
And that's what Ball State's got to do. I'm sure the Coach Ray at the timeout said, hey, guys, you got to get in there and rebound a whole lot tougher. You're standing around. Good presence there by Bonzi going up and getting the putback.
Lamont Rowland called for the foul in the backcourt. Second foul on Lamont Rowland. Jerome Davis back in the lineup for Ball State, the freshman from Cleveland. Charles Smith returns. Also, Dwayne Clemens going to come back in the ball game. Wholesale changes for the Cardinals as Hosier, Hankins, and Rowland lead.
I noticed you talked about substitutions. Central has subbed a lot, but it's been their top 8, maybe 9 players, whereas Ball State goes 10 or 11 deep. And it certainly has to be in their favor because they've done that all year. And I don't think Central has subbed as much throughout the year as maybe they have even in this game here in the last few games of the year.
Central Michigan hanging right in with the league leaders. The Chippewas trail Ball State by just 3. Well, a big collision over along press row. Dan Shell putting his baseball future in doubt when he dove for the ball. Watch him go head first here into the table, and his leg whips along.
Yeah, that's great effort, and that's what Coach Smith told us before the game. You can't fault these players for giving every amount of energy that they've had, and they're showing it tonight. They're hanging right here with the Cardinals.
Mason foul going to the basket. Todd Simmons picks up the personal. That is his second. And Marcus Mason will step to the free throw line. There's a look at Simmons, the sophomore from Iron River, Michigan. Lee Hampton coming back in the game, and Simmons will exit.
Coach Mason's one of those players who, you know, when the shot's not going, you got to be able to get yourself to the basket. And we talked earlier, he's been able to do that. And a good example of it the last time to draw the foul. Shot put, faked, and took it to the basket and was able to put it back in there.
And Mason has struggled with the shot from every location, not only from the three-point line, but even the field goal and the free throw. Shooting 31% from the field, 21% from three-point range, and just 41% from the stripe. But he looked pretty good on those two. Again, Ball State trying to create the turnover with the full court pressure. And Mason knocked it away from behind, but was called for the foul.
I think that one of the things that Central has done, Vince, against the press is they're throwing the ball from out of bounds to midcourt. They're throwing over the top of the front line of the zone press, and I think that's been effective for them here in the first half.
A couple of other scores from around the Mid-American Conference. Kent is leading Marshall by 3 in the late stages of the first half. And Western Michigan on top of Northern Illinois by 17 with about 3.5 minutes to play in that first half. Central Michigan's women's squad leading Ball State by 10 late stages of the first half. So action all around the country tonight as Lee Hampton drains a pair for Central, and it's a three-point game.
Well, those are the shots you got to take, and you got to be able to deliver on. And Jerome had an open about 8-footer, didn't knock it down, and here come the Chippewas again, setting that wide motion offense.
Bonzi Wells called for the foul as Kisner was driving to the basket. Central Michigan has spread the floor and run its offense to perfection. Just the kind of game they have to play against this Ball State team tonight.
They're patient. Here you see it. You know, the dribbler beats the defender. Bonzi got beat off the dribble, and you just can't have that to happen. Creates a lot of problems, and Central's been very smart in their offense. And they're just hanging in there, and you know, I mean, even though no matter what the score is, they've basically won this first half because of being able to execute their game plan.
Timeout on the floor, 3:56 to play in the first half. Ball State leads Central Michigan by 1 on Fox Sports Ohio.
Jackson Street Open MRI and Imaging is expanding the services.
11 of 13 from the charity stripe. Been the difference here in keeping the Chippewas the heavy underdog right in this ball game.
Little screen up on top, a double screen for Bonzi. Central Michigan switching extremely well on the perimeter.
Wells misses the jumper, and the Chippewas take over possession, and there's Glover beating the defense down the court and drawing the foul.
Well, the shots aren't falling, and Ball State standing. Central hustling after every loose ball, every rebound that's shot up there, and also outrunning Ball State from defense to offense.
Glover is 64% shooter from the free throw line.
And he looked like a 64% shooter on that one. Coach Smith getting a little refreshment there. He's worked a tough game so far this first half.
That's a guy that could shoot it back in his day.
Yes, he could.
One of the greatest scorers in Michigan high school history. We're tied at 26 with 3:24 to play. Smith +1.
Yeah, good penetration by Marcus Mason and an outstanding pass down to Smith, and Smith finished the play with an excellent power layup. And that's what Ball State's got to do, is just go back to spreading the floor a little bit, using your dribble, set good screens, and give your offense a chance to work, and not just be content with taking the first pass jump shot all the time. They're going to have it, but they're going to get it with a little bit of movement off of offense and make Central's defense work a little harder.
Charles Smith, the senior from Detroit, hits the free throw and then exits the game as Mickey Hosier returns. Ball State with Hosier and Rowland, along with Marcus Mason, Jerome Davis, and Bonzi Wells.
Probably have as quick a lineup and most athletic lineup as they could have right now, and decided to go real small and match quickness versus quickness.
For Central, it's Glover and Jansen, along with Shell, Kisner, and Simmons. Shell misses, and there's the rebound by Mason. Mason for three. Well, there's a confidence boost. Marcus Mason knocking down the three-pointer.
Yeah, he looked very confident in shooting that shot, too, Vince. He was squared, got his legs under him, and went right up and knew he was going to make it.
After Central Michigan fought to tie it, Ball State has now jumped out again to a 6-point lead. Hosier for Wells. He can't finish it.
No, he just led him a little bit too much, and Bonzi didn't have enough room to catch it.
Two minutes to play in the first half, and Glover sinks the three.
Well, Marcus Mason got lost. He didn't get to his man. Hosier had to cover for him and got there too late. Don't want to leave Glover.
You'd never know the Central Michigan Chippewas are 4-20, struggling with a 5-game losing streak. They played very well here tonight. The lob for Glover, and he can't get the finish. Jerome Davis misses, and Rowland puts it back.
And that's how Ball State's got to score. They got to go in after missed shots and rebound the ball. A good effort by Lamont Rowland.
Rowland with a pair of offensive rebound putbacks. And Shell brings the crowd to its feet with the dunk. 1 minute to play, first half.
Shots just not going. This basketball team is pumped up. Not the kind of position that Ball State wants to be in.
Jansen. The game is tied.
Now, Coach Ray taking a 20-second timeout to get something positive here the last 35 seconds.
Central Michigan on an 8-2 run, and you see the jubilation in the huddle. The Chippewas believing in themselves here in the final home game of the season.
Well, you look at Ball State, their players don't seem, they seem to be a little frustrated right now. Got their heads hung down. They don't look like a team Vince is leading the conference. And here you got a Central team who's got everything to gain and nothing to lose. And I think you're going to see these stands. We were kind of disappointed at the crowd here at Rose Arena. But I think these stands are going to fill up here in the second half as the students and the fans listening on radio and watching on TV realize that their basketball team is hanging in there against one of the premier teams in the league this year.
Watch Shell go up with the strong finish.
Central looking like they're playing a zone.
Shot clock and the game clock almost identical. Ball State will hold for a final shot.
Now they go down and try to penetrate, drive the gap, and kick it off to Rowland. Try to take it all the way.
Wells has it knocked away. And Central Michigan wants a 20-second timeout with 2 seconds.
Well, Bonzi tried to dribble between two defenders in a trap situation. Wasn't a good decision on his part. So now Central's got a chance to take the lead going in at halftime. And, you know, again, this is a half that they've won. They've played extremely hard. They're fired up, and this crowd's getting more and more into this basketball game. They believe now that there's an opportunity to create the upset.
Game is tied at 34 apiece. The Central Michigan student section really getting on Bonzi Wells and making it tough on him as Ball State's offensive end is right there in front of the Central Michigan students. That's what makes your home court advantage a home court advantage. Central throws it away. Nobody touched it, so Ball State will now inbound the basketball.
And now Coach wasn't real happy with that execution of the play. And you had the pitcher, Shell, taking the ball out of bounds, and he threw a wild pitch.
Wells for three at the horn. Central Michigan has got to be thrilled at halftime. Going to the locker room, tied with the league-leading Ball State Cardinals, 34 apiece. You're watching the Mid-American Conference Game of the Week on Fox Sports Net. Clemens, Hosier, Wells, Johnson, and Reed. And the same is true for Central Michigan with Glover and Jansen, Kisner, Shell, and Hampton. Central in that loose defense, giving Ball State the perimeter shot, but very protective in the paint.
I think Artie's right there. You know, they're just giving certain people the opportunity to shoot it, and Ball State's trying to force it down inside, and it's not hasn't worked very well.
Kisner with the steal, and then the offensive foul.
Been a lot of offensive fouls tonight. They're calling that very closely, and good heads-up defense by Mickey Hosier. Here you see it. I'd say that's very good position, wouldn't you, Vince?
It's a tough call to make.
Very tough. One of the hardest calls that any official has to make.
Wells, nice pass inside for Wayne Johnson.
And that's what you expect to see. As soon as Bonzi's covered, he gives it up, and Wayne made a nice reception and powered it in.
Ball State has never trailed in the ball game, but we've been tied on a couple of occasions, and we are again as Shelf converts.
Wayne Johnson fronting way out too high and was able to throw the lob, and Ball State was not aware of the weak side help.
Johnson again, the intended target, but knocked away.
Well, we all know the longer that a team like Central hangs and hangs, they're a very hungry basketball team playing with a lot of emotion tonight. Coach Smith has them ready. They become more and more dangerous as the clock ticks away.
Shell and Glover now shoots the three.
A lot more confident in your shooting, confident in your screening. They got that look up themselves. They're kind of smiling at each other. Feel it.
Clemens to answer.
And that's the kind of play, inside, outside. Take it in, back out. If it's not there, rather than force it, throw it back out to a good shooter. And if he gets covered, throw it right back in. And that's the kind of play that creates three-point opportunities.
And Bonzi now called for the foul on Glover. The sideline.
It's a good matchup because Glover's been getting after him real hard. And Bonzi's out returning the favor by putting a lot of pressure on him. Got to make Glover lay the ball down.
Mitch Hankins and Jerome Davis in for Ryan Reed and Wayne Johnson. Jansen looking for Glover over on the left wing, and Glover obviously feeling it. He's got 14 points and has the stroke. They lobbed it up for him. It's knocked away, but Wells touched it last.
Well, Central has been content the whole game so far of running most of the shot clock down and trying to score on the possession the last 10 seconds of that particular possession, and it's worked favorably on their behalf.
Glover looks to shoot it again. There's Shell.
Well, everything's going for him.
Shell has a dozen. Clemens. And now Bonzi's going to be fouled underneath. Glover fell to the floor, but the hold was called on Glover previous to Bonzi knocking him down.
Glover's doing everything he can to keep Bonzi from getting where he has to go. There you see it. He's holding right there.
That would have been a huge foul. Wells has 2 personals, and a 3rd foul would have certainly sent him to the bench.
Well, you called it. The foul was on Glover before the push-off by Wells.
Davis. First basket of the game for Jerome Davis.
Well, Ball State's got to get this defense aggressive and pick themselves up, because Central's been able to do about anything they wanted to do in the second half.
Another three-pointer. Kisner knocks it down.
Isn't it amazing, Vince, how confident you get whenever you got the lead and you're playing at home against the leading team in the conference?
Clemens shoots the three. and then steals the long pass. Wells dishes to Clemens for the finish.
Now, Bonzi's made 2 excellent passes and sacrificed himself and given it up to a teammate. Good example of it there. So all starts down here at the defensive end. You got to get a hand up on the shooter and take some of this confidence away from Central Michigan.
Bonzi Wells and Jerry Glover guarding one another, and there's a whistle and a foul on Mitch Hankton. Away from the basketball as he was fighting underneath with Dan Shell.
He and Shell really been going at it. I think all the post people for Ball State have had a little bit of a problem tonight, Vince, of trying to front out too high. They're trying to fight force with force, and that's not the way to play the post man, because the offense is going to get an advantage on you.
Charles Smith has come into the game, and Bonzi Wells leaves, as does Mickey Hosier. Marcus Mason returns for the Cardinals. It'll be interesting from this group out on the floor, Jerry, as to which player provides the offense for Ball State.
No doubt they're going to have to create some offense off their defense, and this team is capable of doing that, but they don't have the outstanding shooters. And there's Dwayne, because of his defensive presence, caused the turnover.
Jansen whistled for the walk. A timeout at 15:45. Bidding to pull off the upset of highly regarded Ball State. Bonzi Wells has drawn a lot of defensive attention, but he's done a nice job getting rid of it. Dwayne Clemens with 5 of Ball State's 9 here in the second half, and Bonzi starts this sequence on the bench, catching a breather, and so does Clemens.
Now, Bonzi's been a factor in a couple about 4 or 5 points, because he's sacrificed himself and made some assists inside to Johnson, and also that last one we just saw.
Smith finds Davis.
Well, Ball State having a little more success at penetrating themselves and showing a little bit more zip here on the defensive end. Feet are moving a lot more active, and they seem to be talking better to each other.
Lamont Rowland in the game for Ball State, possibly to provide some offensive spark. Rowland capable of getting hot and scoring points in a hurry. Glover has it knocked away. Davis wisely gets it to the guard, Charles Smith. And there is Davis on the block again. Misses this one, but fights for the rebound, and it was last touch by Central. You know, Jerome Davis really gives Ball State a presence on the offensive boards, and that's something, maybe one of the weaknesses this team has.
Well, I like the look that Ball State's given inside right now. They're throwing it to whoever's open. It just happens to be Hankins and Mason down inside. Jerome Davis the last time. He made a great power move to the basket. Didn't go down, but he went right back up, got the ball knocked loose. And
Smith to Hankins.
Excellent pass by Smith. He drove baseline, got covered, and dropped it off. So showing more emotion right now than they have in several minutes.
Central Michigan wants a 20-second timeout. Charles Smith has come off the bench to give Ball State a spark with a couple of assists.
Charles Smith has come off the bench, and Rowland's come off the bench to play well, as Jerome Davis has. And you know, they've gotten this nice spark right here with Bonzi on the bench.
For the latest Ball State sports headlines, team directories, and student-athlete features, as well as links to other Mid-American Conference websites, visit the official website of Ball State University Athletics. You see the internet address on the lower portion of your screen. You can email the coaches, look at upcoming season schedules, or get information about your favorite Ball State sport.
Charles Smith playing real heads-up basketball and just about had a steal there on the inbounds pass. Staying down in his stance and playing with a lot of intensity.
Shell turns and faces up on Hankins and gets the roll.
Well, Shell's playing with a lot of confidence also. Nice spin move in the post.
Shell has 14. Stop the Ball State 6-0 run. Look at the space that Central Michigan's defense is affording the Ball State offense. Now Mason goes to the basket.
It's the third time this game that Mason's made a nice, strong power dribble to the basket. Not shooting the ball well, but he's going to the hoop hard, and that helps their offense.
Mason with 9 points tonight. Having his most effective outing in quite some time. Again, Central being very patient on the offensive end. Will let that shot clock get down inside of 10. Borovich was bumped with the shot clock down to 5, and Charles Smith is called for the foul.
Charles was standing straight up. Coach Capella talked about that. Not quite ready to play. Ready to guard the dribbler. When you go out, you close out there. Just wasn't quite ready. And then the defensive help from Davis was a little late getting there too. But Charles has got to be a little more ready to guard the dribble.
Borovich taking the inbounds pass. Ryan Reed has come back in the game. Mitch Hankins out for the Cardinals. Nice entry. And Reed fouls Shell. Good look from the perimeter.
I still think the problem, Vince, is that Reed is trying to, I don't know why they're trying to front Shell out so far, because he has not been that much of a threat if you put a little defensive pressure on him. The offside help there, Mason and Smith went to sleep also and did not recover over to help Ryan Reed. When you're on the help side of the defense, that's exactly what that word means. You're a helper, and you got to be able to rotate quickly on any lob pass into the post. Central smart in attacking that way.
Shell having a big outing tonight. Gets Central Michigan to within 1. Jerome Davis is out. Bonzi Wells returns for the Ball State Cardinals. Bonzi has not scored here in the second half.
Just have to almost expect Bonzi to kind of break out of this thing and get something to happen for his Cardinals.
Wells with just 6 points. Mason knocked away, and Rowland recovers. Offensive rebound.
Now Rowland had good presence of mind to go right back up. She got good hop, went right back up and got the putback, and that's what Ball State needs to get their offense in gear.
You talk about Rowland's hop. They're quick jumps, too. He doesn't have to get set again before he goes back up.
Right.
He just springs up.
Yes, he does. He does not have to gather himself like a lot of players have to do.
Every time on the offensive end, Central looks to run some clock, get it down to about 10, and then run the offense, and Glover took an extra step.
And Ball State did a better job of guarding the dribbler, too. And if they keep the dribble in front of them against anybody, Rowland showed a little leadership, trying to get people pumped up.
Todd Simmons back in the ball game for Central Michigan. Mason for 3. Well, Marcus Mason shot the three-pointer extremely well last season, but has been as dry as the desert from beyond the arc this year, and he's hit 2 big ones tonight.
Yeah, we were talking about his percentages on this trip up to Michigan today, Vince, and he's proven us wrong tonight. Ball State needs every bit of that shooting percentage in this game today.
Mason with a season-high 12 points. Lamont Rowland, the good defensive play, and the held ball points to Central Michigan, but good defense from Rowland. There's a timeout on the floor, 11:54 to play in the game. The Ball State Cardinals leading Central Michigan.
Go with the Tigers. Tiger Motor Coaches, your #1 motor coach carrier in Indiana.
Both teams lighting it up here in the second half. Ball State 9 of 12 from the floor. Central 5 of 5.
Well, they're just showing, putting on an offensive clinic, both teams. They're executing real well, and the shooters are squared up.
Ball kicked out of bounds. Central Michigan retains possession. Shot clock at 7, so Central will have to get a quick look at the basket.
And Ball State's had them in this position many times tonight, but they've either fouled or allowed a shot to come off.
Borovich. Offensive rebound.
Well, that's one of those plays. It's just, you just shake your head. That's just uncalled for. I mean, there's no reason for Ball State to let that happen. A good heads-up play by Central Michigan. Borovich just was a guard. 6-foot guard.
Boy, we've seen Borovich make a couple of those. He had an alley-oop. And then the one-handed rebound as Mason calls a 20-second timeout while saving the ball from going out of bounds. I mean, that's the kind of play, as we watch Borovich go in, that's the kind of play that wins games for you.
Well, exactly. You look back on after the game's over with, and right there, see everybody standing around and didn't go after the ball. And you're exactly right, Vince, that when the game, you look back at one little play like that, and it can be devastating to Ball State and be the game breaker for Central Michigan.
Central Michigan within 4 of Ball State. The game was tied at the half. You look at some of the other scores from around the Mid-American Conference. Boy, Kent has gotten out on Marshall.
Well, you have to kind of expect that. That game is at Kent. Marshall's not played well on the road.
Rowland for 3. Oh, had his foot on the line. They'll give him 2.
Hit nothing but net. That's Lamont Rowland's spot. That's what he likes to do. He can break a game open himself.
Rowland with a couple of baskets here in the second half. He has 8. Glover having to face well. Simmons takes the knee, and Ryan Reed fouled him.
Well, Mason and Bonzi got caught up in a switch situation. Bonzi switched. Mason didn't. They had 2-on-1, and that allowed Central to get open. There you see it. Reed had to come over. It's a good play by Reed, but it was a miscommunication by Ball State, and that's happened too many times tonight for the Cardinals. A lot of that's just concentration, Vince. They're don't have their heads quite into this game. They're getting more and more into it as this game wears on because they're letting Central hang in there, and everybody's very emotional. They sense the possibility of a real upset here. Ball State's got to snap that.
Simmons' first point of the game. Central has done a nice job at the free throw line.
You bet they have. Ball State still got to keep their patience here. That's not the way to have patience. Bonzi had 3 people around him, and Reed probably should have taken the jump shot or tossed it around the perimeter.
Bonzi, well, still has not scored here in the second half, and now we've got an offensive foul. Simmons called for an elbow as he was setting a pick.
Well, wasn't the kind of play that Central wanted, but Coach Smith talking right there to Simmons and letting him know that you got a foul on a screen, and that's not a bad foul to get. At least his effort was there to try to get somebody open.
But Central needs to take advantage of every offensive possession. It just turns out to be a turnover. 16 against the Chippewas as Rowland misses the 3, tries to chase down the rebound. And he calls another timeout, and it will be a 20-second timeout for the Cardinals. Now, we're getting a lot of people at home probably sitting there saying, boy, I hate this rule. And well, you either love it or you hate it, but I think it's one of those that can really help you out, as it did in that situation. Ball State was able to call a 20 instead of maybe having to throw the ball away and create a turnover.
Any fan who feels that way, Vince, ought to have the opportunity to sit on the bench and have to coach a basketball game sometimes and to keep possession of the ball right there. Rowland was going to he was out of bounds. He was falling out of bounds, had to do something or risk the turnover, throwing it back in bounds, so he called the timeout. It's a good play.
See on the screen the latest news, scores, and other information on the Mid-American Conference website. Log on and check out the Mid-American Conference. Charles Smith has it taken away. Borovich with another good, strong play, this time on the defensive end.
Smith trying to create something that wasn't there and got himself in trouble with too much traffic.
Hosier and Clemens have been on the bench a long time for the Ball State Cardinals. Charles Smith getting some extended minutes tonight.
Down to 10 seconds on the possession.
Borovich took it right in and then had it knocked away. Shell puts it up and Mason rebounds.
Boy, Shell has really played hard tonight. Both ends of the court. He's really gotten after it.
There's the reach around as Jerome Davis was trying to post up. Shell will be called for the personal. Jay Smith's got him a good young ball club, and they are taking their lumps this season, but they'll be issuing some lumps in the years to come.
Well, you know, when he gets his recruiting in gear and gets his own players in here and teaches the system, some of these young players will be around next year to to help him, and he'll be able to get some good talented players from his recruiting, and he'll put together a team, and I guarantee you that Coach Smith will have a type of team that will be in the upper echelon of the conference real quick.
Wells off the spin, still can't get one down. Here's a whistle off the loose ball rebound. It's going to be called on Brent Larson, the freshman out of Wisconsin. Ball State will have the basketball underneath their own basket. Clemens and Hosier back in for Ball State. And now Borovich is going to be called for a hold on Bonzi Wells before the ball can even be inbounded.
Well, it's 3 quick fouls on Central, and really important for Ball State because they're in the bonus on the next foul. And they're doing everything they can to bump Bonzi and make it real difficult for him. And timing's a little off on the shot.
Brent Larson and Luke Johnson, the new substitutes for Central Michigan, and now Wells is called for the offensive foul as he and Borovich go back and forth.
Well, that's
3 on Bonzi.
Yep. So they have to be real careful. Got to still play good defense, but be careful with the basketball and his penetration.
Game is getting physical underneath as players run through picks. We're inside of 9 minutes, and Central Michigan within striking distance of a major upset. Borovich
stood up there and got the shooter's roll, Vince. Good soft touch.
That comes from hours and hours in your own gym, right?
Yes, it does.
Davis finds Mason for a three-point attempt.
Just about the time Ball State gets a little cushion, Central makes a couple big plays.
Johnson missed it, and the Cardinals have the numbers. Clemens gets the roll.
That's a good fake, little head fake by Clemens off the dribble. Got the defender leaning one way.
10 points for Dwayne Clemens. Now Clemens gets the steal. But taken right away. Everybody's on the floor, and there's Hosier beating Wells. And Ray McCallum is livid. Boy, there was a lot of contact and no call.
Yeah, that's just unbelievable. There's no doubt he got fouled on the way up, Vince, without question. And I don't know what happened, but official just, he didn't know where he was on the floor, evidently. It was just a real bad call.
Larson misses the three-pointer, and Mason rebounds, and there's a foul called on Simmons, who banged bodies with the junior from Peoria.
Well, Ray's still complaining, as you see right there. He can't believe. Got to be real careful.
Well, I'm not quite sure what explanation there could be. There was a lot of contact on a wide open, basically a wide open layup.
Well, it could have been. He went over and said, "Coach, I knew I missed one," and just admitted. That happens a lot of times. Too late now, but anyway, here we go.
Here's Mason on the 1-and-1.
Key free throws here. 7:28 to go.
Can't say enough about the effort Marcus Mason has given tonight, and Ray McCallum still pleading his case.
Yes, Marcus has been very, very confident at the free throw line with his jump shot. Needed to get himself out of the slump. Shot still looked good there. He's just offline.
Mason with 13 points. That's a season high. Glover shoots the three, and Clemens, the little guard, goes up for a big rebound. Clemens looked at the perimeter shot. Instead, he'll try to find Rowland. There's Jerome Davis getting tangled up, and a whistle and a foul going against Central Michigan.
Really like Jerome Davis's effort on the glass tonight, both at the offensive and defensive end. He's really been a bear in there inside on the offensive end. Here you see the forced shot by Lamont. Threw it up hard, but there's Jerome in there battling with three Central players and got the foul out of it. Well, again, here we go. Ball State's still in the lead. Got a chance to get this lead up to a 7-point lead, Vince, and see if they can maintain that.
Jerome Davis, the last 3 weeks have been the best weeks of his young career in a Ball State uniform. He's just a freshman, but he's played extremely well the last 6 or 7 games.
The bench is Ray's utilized that bench a lot all year. The bench is really important here in the late stages of the season.
Ball State's lead 12-7 with 7:01 to play. You're watching the Mid-American Conference Game of the Week tonight and giving Ray McCallum's team fits.
Yes, they have, and Ray's having to earn everything he has tonight. But Ball State's shown a little tendency here in the last couple minutes, Vince, of being a little more excitable on defense. They rebounded hard, playing with more confidence on offense, and they've built themselves a 7-point lead. We'll see how the defense holds up.
See with Western Michigan and Northern Illinois, another game in the Mid-American Conference tonight. Western Michigan right there with Ball State atop the West Division in the MAC. Each team with just 3 conference losses, and Western Michigan leading Northern by 8 with about 5 minutes to play.
Could be that both Western and Ball State looking ahead to that big rematch that they have come Wednesday night in University Arena. When that happens, dangerous things can happen to you. We're seeing it here tonight.
Glover having a solid effort tonight in his final home game of his career. Senior from Edmond, Oklahoma. Rolls them both in.
Got the shooter's touch right on that rim. Had the momentum of the ball going forward instead of backward and got the point.
Bonzi Wells on the Ball State bench getting a breather with 6.5 minutes to play. Clemens. Count it. Another 3-pointer. Ball State getting in the groove offensively, and Clemens has been a big reason why. He has 13. Glover lost the handle on it, and then Rowland fouled him.
I think that ball went up so hard against the glass, no one from Ball State realized what was happening, and it's almost like a pass back to yourself.
Third on Lamont Rowland, the 8th on the team as Glover goes to the free throw line with 16 points. Bonzi Wells will come back in along with Mitch Hankins. Now Wells has not scored in the second half. Bonzi has just 6 points. That would be a season low for the player who just a couple of days ago set the all-time Mid-American Conference scoring record.
Well, this game's a long way from being over with, 6 minutes, and people are going to see Bonzi do something pretty exciting here the last 6 minutes for his basketball team. He knows he hasn't played well. He's a smart player. Look for him to finish strong.
Every time Wells gets near the basketball, Central's done a nice job putting 2 or 3 players sagging right down on him. Clemens feels the hot hand. And Glover comes away with the loose ball. Well, I really like Glover's game tonight. He's played under control. There's a nice look inside for Hampton who gets the hit.
Everybody stood around for Ball State. Didn't go after the missed shot. Hampton's able to get a tip in. He stuck with it real hard. Finished it off.
It's a 6-point game. 5:15 to play in the contest. Wells for 3. Hampton with another rebound. Burovich finds Shell.
Ball State slow in transition again. Wasn't able to get down. Ray calling 4-3 up.
The fans at Rose Arena starting to come alive and on their feet, showing support for their Chippewas. Hankins can't quiet the crowd, and Burovich comes down with a rebound. Hosier is called for the reach-in.
Well, just like the game's been all along, Vince, Ball State gets out 6-7 point lead. Then they go to sleep and don't play defense, don't get back. Take 4 shots and no one's standing around everyone's standing around not going after the ball. So again, not having their heads quite into the game. allowing Central to creep right back in this thing. Got the crowd excited again, and they're feeling much more confident winding down the last 4 minutes.
Jay Smith
saying
he's going to be exhausted when this one's over. He's coaching hard over there on the sideline.
Yeah, he and the assistants just saying, hey, can you believe we're right here where we want to be?
It's a 2-point game. Rowland forced to throw one up wildly, gets his own rebound, and then is hammered. But first, it's an offensive foul.
Again, Ray, what are you doing? Trying to force the play, get something done. Can't fault the effort, but it just wasn't the play right here. Not a good shot. Good effort here by Rowland. But again, not the kind of play. You need to clear it out, Vince, get things more organized.
(64-62). Central has scored 8 of the last 10 points, and Ball State on its heels here in the late stages. Borovich finds Hampton, who has it knocked away, and now a foul on Hosier.
Well, instead of playing real good defense with their hands, they're reaching and grabbing, trying to go for steals, and it's gotten them into a whole lot of trouble tonight. Mickey trying to get the ball as it's going up rather than having good position with his body. Put Central to the line for 2 shots.
Central has taken advantage of the free throw opportunities tonight. Jerome Davis leaves. Marcus Mason back in the game. The game is tied. 3:53 left in the contest. Ball State and Central Michigan on Fox Sports Ohio. Tied with conference leading Ball State 64-64. The big difference we talked about at the beginning of the game, Central Michigan a much smaller team, yet the Chippewas have gotten to the free throw line, Jerry, and outscored Ball State by 13 points at the stripe. 2 things have caused that, Vince. Number one, they've been very patient offensively, and they've run the time clock down. And secondly, Ball State's not been patient defensively or offensively. They're reaching and grabbing, trying to go for steals, and trying to take the easy way out defensively rather than moving their feet and staying in position and playing good team defense. They have not played the kind of defensive effort that we've seen out of the Cardinals this entire year. Rowland looks for Wells down on the block. Pushed away, but still can't get it to roll. Bonzi is 2 of 14 from the field. Well, he got a pretty good look at it. Got down inside, but a lot of people around him, and the shooter didn't fall. Yeah, may have got bumped a little bit. Glover misses, and Mason can't handle it. Hampton has a chance. Well, Mason had a chance. Again, Ball State didn't come up with a second shot. Central's as emotional now than they've probably been all year. It's been a while since they've won. They're right here, able to get it done. Clemens misses the 3. Hampton with the rebound. Central Michigan has lost 14 of its last 15 games, and with under 3 minutes to play, the Chippewas are on the verge of upsetting the Ball State Cardinals. Well, they're going to definitely run that shot clock down now. Run some time here. Clemens with the steal. Shot is blocked, but Hosier follows. And that stops a 10-point Central Michigan run. That's a good play by Mickey Hosier. He followed it right in there, expected it to miss. Came right back to him. Nobody was around him. Game is tied. You see the time remaining in the contest. Glover has been one of those with a hot hand, but instead it's Kisner who steps up. He had 25 Wednesday night against Eastern Michigan, and he knocks down a big basket here in the second half.
It's amazing what a little bit of confidence will do for you. And Central's had it for 40 minutes.
His second three-pointer here in the second session, and finally Bonzi Wells
For a three.
bounces back. Bonzi's first field goal of the second half. He went over 18 minutes without a basket.
And I'm sure he's probably not done tonight doing something spectacular for Ball State. Good players have a way of bringing their team out of the doldrums to come back. You're going to need every bit of it tonight.
Glover has it knocked away by Wells. Ball State with the numbers. Mason, no call, blocked out of bounds. Boy, Ball State had a 4-on-1, 4-on-2 break, and really didn't get that good of a shot.
The decision that Mason made was not a very good one. Very fortunate it wasn't a charge. Very fortunate. Here you see it. Made his decision right here, what he's going to do.
Timeout on the floor. The Ball State Cardinals call the timeout with 1:16 to play in the ball game. Jerry, we talked about it in the open. Of course, the big showdown Wednesday night at University Arena in Muncie between Ball State and Western Michigan, the two teams with the best record in the Mid-American Conference. And we addressed the fact that you cannot overlook the stepping stone to get to that contest. Northern Illinois giving Western Michigan quite a battle. And, of course, Central got Ball State on the ropes.
Well, and the Western game is at Western, so that's even more difficult to understand. But Ball State coming into a tough place to play in Rosalina. We've said it several times tonight. But they have not helped themselves, Vince. They have not played the kind of basketball that has gotten them the conference lead. And as a result, Central Michigan come in here fired up. They have everything to gain. They're putting it all out there on the floor tonight.
Well, the Central Michigan fans have certainly enjoyed this one tonight. And here's one shot that brought them to their feet as Kisner just stepped up and drained the three-pointer, giving Central a 69-66 lead. And then Ball State comes right back. Bonzi Wells has been ice cold all night, but he stands here and drains the key shot, ties it at 69, and that's where we are right now with 1:16 to play. This telecast of Ball State basketball on Fox Sports Net is broadcast under the rights granted by Ball State University and Central Michigan University, and is intended for the private, non-commercial use of our audience. Any use of this telecast without the express written consent of Ball State University, Central Michigan University, and Fox Sports Net is strictly prohibited. Boy, it's been a good one tonight. 69-69. It was tied at the half, and Ball State squirted out to a little bit of an advantage here in the second half, at one time leading by 7. But Central Michigan went on a 10-0 run to take its own advantage before Wells hit that game-tying three-pointer.
Nobody in this arena thought that this game would come down and be tied for the 1:16 except Central Michigan players and the coaching staff. 1-2-2 zone shown here by Central as they come out after this timeout. So we'll see what kind of shot the Ball State gets out of. The corners are going to be open. The middle there where the MAC is in the paint, and the corners are what's usually open against the 1-2-2 zone. See if Ball State can set a screen and attack here as the possession winds down. 8
Shot
seconds.
clock inside of 10. Wells mishandles it.
Going a foul here.
Shell. Points for the sophomore, Dan Shell. Wells leans in and ties the game.
Well, just like we said, you don't expect a good player to... Ray was trying to get a timeout. It's a good thing Bonzi didn't see him because he had a wide open drive for the hoop. Timeout, timeout, good shot.
Central takes a 20-second timeout. 16.2 left in the game. They're going to call for a full timeout now. Central has changed their mind from the 20 to the full. Well, what a wild game. here tonight. Jay Smith, Central Michigan Chippewas have executed their game plan. They spread the floor in the first half. They flashed players to the basket, and they got to the free throw line, where they've been extremely successful, outscoring Ball State by a bundle at the stripe. It really has been the charity stripe tonight for Central.
Well, it has, and you called it just right. It's been the solid play, but it's also been the laziness and lack of execution defensively. Here you see a great pass to Shell. Good little power layup, little jump hook. Then as all good players do, they take the game into their hands. Bonzi makes a nice spin move down, under control layup. Amazing that Central didn't have 4 players around him. They've had it that way all game. Had great game plan in guarding Bonzi.
What do you do here if you're Jay Smith? What are you diagramming in the huddle? As longtime coach of the Miami Redskins, I know you were in this situation many times.
Well, I tell you what, Vince, I think I wouldn't be a bit surprised with 16 seconds. If he doesn't get what he wants, he may call another timeout. But I think they'll spread the floor and try to take it on the dribble and then either kick it out to somebody for a shot. They've had success doing that. Look for Glover maybe to go one-on-one. But you got to get the ball in a good ball handler's hands. Let him create and try to penetrate, either get it up on the glass or kick it out. Because Ball State's got to be very careful defensively that they don't commit a foul.
The possession arrow, if it comes into play, would give the basketball to the Ball State Cardinals.
Don't be surprised if the ball doesn't go right back to Glover after he throws it inbounds to create one-on-one.
The game is tied, 71-71, with 15 seconds to play.
Guess who's got it? Good player against good player right here. Offense versus defense.
Kisner has a little bit of a size advantage over Hosier. They're going to settle for the last shot. Lee, it's over.
Just what you expect. Drive one-on-one.
4/10 of a second to play. And Central Michigan is celebrating on one end, and the coaching staff's trying to get their players down. They've got to play defense for 4/10 of a second. Barely time. You can't catch it and shoot it in that amount of time. It's got to be more of a tap.
Yeah, it's got to be a throw at the basket. You have to just kind of catch it in the air and then throw it at the hoop. You can't get it and get it yourself to go up for a shot. There's not enough time. But you got to go back. Here you see the play. Kinzer driving, jump, fake shot. Gets Hosier up in the air and had a good look at it from about 13 feet.
Boy, Kisner has hit a couple of big ones here in the second half. That basket gives him 12 points, but he also hit that three-pointer that gave Central Michigan a 69-66 lead.
Well, one of the crazies there is having a good time at this game. A lot of people have come out, Vince, at halftime to watch this game. Wasn't near this many people here when we started.
Kisner got to be one of the candidates for Freshman of the Year in the Mid-American Conference. And what big performances he's had in his last 2 games. He had 18 Saturday against Toledo, and he preceded that outing with 25 against Eastern Michigan.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens. They got to go full court to throw a pass. Ball State players don't look real confident right now coming out of the huddle. Look very defeated.
Four-tenths of a second. That's Ryan Reed who will inbound the basketball for the Cardinals. Dwayne Clemens, Lamont Rowland, Bonzi Wells, and Mitch Hankins on the floor. Ray McCallum's team 4/10 of a second from suffering a major upset. Wells catches, lets it fly. Oh, it was on target, but just shy. Central Michigan has upset Ball State.
We're going to get bounced over here. They're right on top of us, Vince.
The party is on in Mount Pleasant. Central Michigan may have just dashed Ball State's hopes for a Mid-American Conference championship. (73-71) the final score. Central Michigan upsets Ball State in the Mid-American Conference game of the week.